Hey everyone, and welcome to the Perfect Bite podcast, your fusion of food and entrepreneurship. You'll hear stories from chefs, restaurateurs, CPG brands, and more from the food and bev industry. All of them are at different points in their journeys, talking about their experiences and how they've cooked up something new. Let's dig in. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Perfect Bite podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Perkins. You can talk to the top chefs in any town, and most will say they love a home-cooked meal most of all. There's something special about being served in someone's home or serving others from your own kitchen. Everyone becomes part of the family. And there's certainly an art to hosting and home cooking that makes someone want to come back time and time again. Today's guest has mastered these arts and turned them into her own media brand, from recipes to tips on how to make anyone feel right at home. Please welcome host of Entertaining with Beth and author of Entertaining 101, Beth Manach. Beth,
Thanks for having me.
thank you so much for being on here. I love this about our modern world. Again, you and I met through our mutual friend, Sally Eckes, but you're in France and I'm in Ohio.
Thanks to technology.
Thanks to technology, here we are. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to chat with you today and everything that you've built. I think it's such an inspiration, and especially for folks who are starting off, you've been working on this for over a decade now. And so it just really shows that a lot of determination and hard work pays off.
Yes, you just have to keep showing up.
Yes, and not giving up because it's hard. A lot of days it's hard.
Yep, it is.
Oh my goodness. Well, I always love to take things back to the beginning here. Tell us about when you first fell in love with food. What was cooking and eating like in your household growing up?
Sure. So both my parents came from very big families, each one of 5 kids. My dad was on the Italian side. My mom was on the Irish English side. So when everybody got together, we had like 20 cousins at any one gathering. So it was a very big family, lots of cooking, lots of entertaining. And then I think when I got married and started to have my own family, my parents at that point, they were all too happy to pass the baton. And we were expected to host Thanksgiving and Christmas, and all the holidays just kind of came our way.
Yeah.
And I think that I really loved sort of recreating some of the early memories that I had in their house, but putting my own spin on it in our house.
Amazing. And what type of food were you having? I mean, it sounds like maybe a little bit of pasta, maybe a bit of the Italian side of things, but what were some of the staples? You grew up on the East Coast, but you also had some beautiful time on the West Coast.
Yeah. So, right. It was a lot of pasta, a lot of Italian things, but also a lot of fresh food. So I grew up in Fairfield, Connecticut, and just over the border in Westport was a really wonderful gourmet food store called Heyday. And they were importing tomatoes from California and all of this fruit that was coming that we had never seen before, heirloom varieties. And this was like 25 years ago before it became really trendy. And I got a job there. And so I worked in the bakery, and then I worked in the produce department, and I would bring all of this stuff home, and my parents loved going there. And so a lot of my early memories are making fruit tarts and fresh pesto and using a lot of these ingredients that I didn't realize one day I would actually be living in California and have a garden and growing some of these things myself. But I think just that fresh seasonal way of cooking really inspired me from an early age.
Yeah,
for sure.
It changes everything too. Yeah, I went out to school in California, and again, that was the first time I was eating like hummus and some things that are just so typical now. But again, when you grew up in the Midwest and our giant family, when we'd get together at holidays, it was, okay, what can we make that's as easy and just as scalable as possible, essentially, versus, okay, like what feels really special and what makes someone feel like you almost just picked it from your own garden.
Right. Exactly. Well, and I think then Mother Nature does all the work for you because the flavor's already there. So it like makes cooking easier, I think.
100%. One of our last guests, Franco from Natura, Franco Fubini, his entire book, In Search of the Perfect Peach, was all about flavors. And I'm like, how are we all not doing this? We've got to figure out some sort of movement in the US that also matches what's happening in the UK and Europe that has these regulations around just pushing forward and really rewarding farmers for fresh.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's a ball game.
Well, tell us a little bit. So again, you grew up having gorgeous food, tell us a little bit about the career journey you had before really entering food. I mean,
Yeah.
if you hear your story, it makes a lot of sense that you've combined it all into everything you're doing today.
I know. Well, that's the funny part. I think I always wanted to do something in food, but when I was in high school, there weren't really that many careers, or I didn't really understand that there were more careers. And so I can remember coming home with a little brochure for culinary school and my parents being like, "You want to go work in a restaurant?" And I'm like, "I don't know, no, but I really want to be around food." And they were like, "Not sure about that." So I kind of forgot about it. And long story short, got into video production, which was
Mm.
probably the thing for me, not knowing where that would lead, and worked for the lifestyle network, the Scripps Networks, which is HGTV and Food Network, and was basically a lifestyle producer, producing a lot of food content, and then transitioned that into digital content. And I finally started to work for a digital media company that got a big grant for YouTube. So back in
Mm.
like 2011, all these media companies were getting funding to launch channels. And at that point, I was a new mom, and my boss turned to me and says, "Create a YouTube channel that moms will like." And I was like, "Well, I don't know. I have never even watched YouTube. I'm just thinking like cat videos and skateboard things." And I was like, "Well, I love to cook, and I wanted to have like real people on the channel and people that I knew from my life and that kind of thing." And at some point, we got to the point where we just didn't have enough content. And my boss was like, "We got to fix this. We need, like, who do you know that we can hire to do this?" And I thought, well, we're kind of out of money and there's nobody really around here who knows how to cook, but I can whip together a few things. So let me just whack off some of these hours. And I started to do that. And it was really interesting to me because this was 13 years ago and YouTube was just starting to have lifestyle content. And a lot of the people watching YouTube were really young. And I was doing these entertaining videos thinking I'd be appealing to young moms, but like moms were not really on the platform yet, or these young kids like in college that had their own apartments and were learning to have their first dinner parties. And a lot of this information that I had grown up with like Martha Stewart and Nina Garten and Donna Hay, like this was all sort of new information to them.
Yes.
And I just like, how are they not getting this? And then I was like, well, I guess they've been spending a lot of time on digital platforms. That content hadn't really blown up yet on digital platforms. So I just thought, wow, there's a real opportunity here. And I made it sort of part of my job. And then one day my boss was like, "Well, you know what? We have some other goals for you right now, but you can have the channel if you want, but you're going to have to figure out how to shoot and edit and just take it over." And that's when I just started the grueling process of doing both. So working a 50-hour-a-week job and then on the weekends doing the YouTube channel.
Oh my goodness. And having the
It's been
job as mom.
the job.
This is so typical.
Free. Wow.
This is so typical of like media and also startups where it's like, you'll
Yeah.
figure it out, right? We have no money, but we need content every second.
Oh, no. And I think a really hard part of the whole thing was I was like this trust fund baby of YouTube. Like I had this great crew that would come and they'd shoot all the videos and they would edit it all. And all I had to do was come up with the recipes and appear on camera. And it was like the easiest thing ever, which is not the path for most YouTubers. That most YouTubers are doing everything themselves. So to go from that to then have to figure out like, oh, I got to buy these cameras and oh, I have to figure out how they work. And I had the video background. Like I knew what it was supposed to look like, but I had no idea how to push all the buttons. So I had some spectacular fails, but I finally figured it out and just grew it and kept going until it got to the point where I could quit the full-time job and work on this full-time. And that was just like a huge win for me. And I just thought, okay, I think I'm onto something. I just have to keep going.
Yes. When do you feel like you had that aha moment? When did you feel like there was that shift? Because one thing I love to talk about on this podcast from the entrepreneurial aspect is the idea of what is an overnight success. Overnight successes are usually years.
Totally. I don't think it really dawned on me because, there's that whole idea of like, dare to believe. Like I really didn't actually think that would be possible. And I had my head to the groundstone of like, oh no, I have to work for a big corporation. I have to
Right.
have a big position and so I sort of, worked my way up to the ladder and I had this really great position. I was running programming for this company, had a nice team, was making a great salary, had 2 kids. And I was like, I can't just decide to go quit all of this to go do this entrepreneurial thing because, I was 40, I was probably close to 45, 46, 2 kids in private school, like living in LA, like it was super expensive. Like that would have taken a big risk. But I think 7 years into it, it was really taking its toll on me. I was
7 years?
Oh yeah, it took 7 years of waking up every day at 4 in the morning to edit my videos for an hour before the kids got up, or an hour or two
Yes.
before the kids got up, and I had to make sandwiches and do the 2 hour commute to Santa Monica and all this kind of stuff. And I think finally, after 7 years, I was like, okay, I actually could see my path, how I was increasing the traffic, increasing the revenue. And I just kept thinking, if I just keep on this path, like I will start making as much money as I'm making doing this, but doing that full time. So
Right.
hopefully.
It's difficult to decide that leap too, because like you said, when you're not 20 years old starting this, there are just so many more responsibilities. And you're like, how do I get benefits?
Yeah.
And I imagine that having a supportive partner really
Yeah.
helped. Did your husband say, like, yes, go for it? Let's test
He
this
did.
out and see how it goes?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. My husband is French, and when we first got married, we both decided like at some point we wanted to spend a certain amount of time in France and a certain amount of West. Just sort of like dreaming as you do on a
Yes.
Saturday morning when you're tired from the day job and the grind. And he was working for himself, but he kept saying, "You need to figure something out so that we can do this." So I think for him, he saw like me being an entrepreneur as that ticket to being able to have more vacation time than
Yeah.
like 2 or 3 weeks a year, which is what it was. And I think that he's right. I think, looking back now, everything that we're doing today would never have been possible had I not taken the leap. So you just have to push yourself off the ledge sometimes.
As hard as it is, yeah, that flexibility is amazing. And I imagine too, when you had that chance to also have citizenship and residency in a country that could support some of the things that we just mentioned, that US entrepreneurs are like, how do I give this up? The marketplace for like healthcare is
Right.
so expensive. What do I do? And I'm hoping that was very helpful.
Oh, it was. And it was something that I didn't think I'd need right away.
Yeah.
Like it took so long, to be honest. Like it took me, I think, 5 years to get my French citizenship.
Oh,
But
wow.
I forced my husband to do it after 9/11 because on 9/10, we were coming back into the country from a French vacation, and my husband got all this hassle at the airport. And I was like, this is
No.
ridiculous. Yeah. I was like, you should just become an American citizen. And he's like, okay, well, if I'm going to do that, then you have to be a French citizen. I was like, okay.
The day
And then
before?
yeah, we came in the day before and like they took him in the back room and they were giving him all of this like hassle. And I'm like, why is this? Why are they being? And then waking up the next morning, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I could see why. Like the whole country, I guess, was on alert. And
Wow.
so at that point, I thought, well, yeah, I would love to be a French citizen. I don't know why I need that now, but okay. And I was really nervous to go through the process because part of the process is sitting down with the consulate in LA and having an interview in French why you want to be French. And I kept thinking, I am not ready to do that now. And it's funny enough.
We need more Duolingo. Before we-
Then finally, 5 years, I was like, oh, I'm never going to be ready. Let's just go do it. And I did, and it all worked out.
I appreciate how that also lines up with the whole you're never really ready for some of these big choices in life, whether it's
Isn't it?
business or babies or moving or
I, I know. And at some point, you just have to say, do it.
wow. Wow. I mean, again, you are living a life that I think a lot of people dream of. And so I appreciate that you're giving us the behind the scenes too of what it's like to be essentially a dual citizen and an expat
Yeah.
because yeah, we're in a time where I think a lot of people will say, like, can we just
I
go?
I know. And it doesn't fix all the problems. Like it actually, in some way, creates new problems that you didn't realize
Mm.
were going to be there. Like, case in point, when we first moved here, I totally underestimated how hard it would be to develop recipes here
Oh, really?
for an American audience because everything's different. Like, you don't have all the same brands of butter, you don't have all the same types of cream, you don't have prepared chicken stock. Everything comes in, the little like bouillon cubes. So having to be like, okay, well, how do I approximate the taste of American chicken broth? Like, it needs more water, it needs more. So, because most of my audience is American. So
Yes.
now I'm the reverse and I'm having to create recipes with French products that would approximate the taste of American things because you want to make sure that people have success when they do your recipes.
Yes. And like you said, even measurements are different. Here we are in the US, the only ones not using the same system
I
as
know.
everyone else,
Right.
which makes it difficult. And like you said, too, how you're getting ingredients, what type of ingredients, what language they're in is different. Tell us a little bit about just to wind back the journey and how then that transition happened. What types of recipes do you say that you started off with and what types of tips? And what do you think helped the evolution? Was it
Right.
moving? And what were you really seeing that changed?
Yeah. Well, I think somebody gave me some really good advice early on about YouTube because in the beginning I was just sort of throwing up anything that I just like to cook. And then I kept thinking, well, maybe I should do this or maybe I should do that. And they kept saying it's called YouTube for a reason. There are lots of people doing whatever they think they should do, but like you should do what you love and you should do what works for you and your guests and your family. Okay, well, that's easy. So I went through like all of the family favorites. I went through lots of things that we make here in France when I would visit my husband's family requests. So a lot of users would say, oh, I'm having my in-laws over. What's a great egg bake I can make for Christmas morning that I can bake the night before? It's like, oh yeah. Like I love the challenge of coming up with things that were problem solving for people. And then also looking, spending time on other YouTube channels and seeing what people were leaving comments on other channels.
Mm,
That
good
gave me a lot of
research.
yeah, great research, like bigger channels than mine. And for a time, and this was 13 years ago, but there was a time when the French macaron had its moment. And there were lots of people who wanted to know how to make them, and they were having all of this difficulty, and things were falling apart. And I was like, I'd love to create like a foolproof recipe for this because people are really having a hard time. And it took me 100 tries too. I mean, I was wrestling with it too. And then I realized there were like 6 or 7 tips that really helped with this recipe. And I thought, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the foolproof French macaron recipe. And that video just took off. And it's still, I think today, it continues to have views and is up to like over 6 million views by now. And I think because of the way that I went about researching what people really need. And I think at the end of the day, yes, it's what I love, but it's also solving problems for people. I think is a big part of it.
Yeah. And that is very much the founder mindset as well is,
Yeah, right.
if you do something just because it's trending, or if you're like, oh, that's kind of cool, it's probably not going to last very long. But if you understand the problem innately, or you know that there's an audience that really wants problems solved, then you've already got them built in. I think that's awesome. I think you had that like natural sense of connection too with your audience and your community, eventual customers, because you were actually answering them, which is really nice.
Well,
A lot of people are like, I'm speaking into the void. Maybe someone will help me with this one day.
Well, and because my background was television, I saw early on, like, wow, this is not like TV. This is like a two-way conversation. Like I'm watching people on Food Network, and if I have a question, no one's going to respond to my question. If there's a place to connect with people. And I love that about YouTube, that it was really speaking to that one person, not speaking to a whole audience, but you're looking right in the lens. You really have that sense that somebody is speaking right to you and they speak back, which I think is like the most fun of the whole thing.
Yes.
And that's, I think, how you develop that really tight relationship with an audience because you do speak back.
Yes. And did you feel comfortable in front of the camera right away? Or was it something that you had to kind of learn, get yourself out of it and be like, okay, I got to promote myself now?
It is such a learned skill. And this is the thing I tell people who are like really nervous about being on camera. There's nothing more awkward than looking into a static piece of glass and pretending like it's a person.
Yeah.
But that is best advice. Like I think in the beginning, it was super nerve-wracking, not only just to stare into this like static thing and try to be warm and engaging, but behind that thing were 7 other people staring at me. So like I just had to think about how would I describe this recipe to my sister? Like if I was on the phone with her or one of my best friends, I would say, oh, and you're going to love it because it's like this. And then make sure you do this and don't do that because if you do that, this is what's going to happen. And I just sort of channeled that type of energy on camera until I knew who was really out there. Because in the beginning, you don't know who's out there.
No.
But then once you start to create a following and an audience, people leave you comments and you see their little avatars pop up week after week. And then you know exactly who's out there. And you're thinking of these people like, oh, yeah, that's the woman who has a new house, or she's the one with a new baby. This is going to really be helpful for her. And I'm not calling the people out, but I'm saying if you're someone who has a new baby, because I know that she does. And again, they feel seen and they feel part of the community. And that made it really easy for me because I felt like I was really speaking to a group of people who I knew. And I think that's the hardest part.
And you were helping shape the content that way too. It wasn't just, as much as folks like you and I, you on a different level, but the folks I work with for marketing consulting, the content I do for this podcast, the dream would be we plan this all a month in advance, right? And you schedule
Right.
it and then you create more and more and more. But you also have to make things on the fly or you have to adjust. How do you think that you learned how to balance that aspect as well of creating content that's true to you, true to the brand, and also something that you know people are looking for suddenly? Maybe it's a trend, or again, you're just noticing a trend in your own audience.
Definitely. I really think of it like a portfolio. So each month I have 4 slots. And so one video is going to be something that nobody is searching for, but it's like a favorite recipe. Like I'm working on this recipe now, this fig and walnut cookie. It's inspired by this thing that I had in Italy a couple weeks ago that was like the most delicious cookie I've ever had. And I'm like, I know there's no search volume to it. I know it's not trendy, but like people need to have this recipe because it is so good. So that will be something that's just like true to me. Then there'll be something that's like probably only means something to my audience, like my book tour video. I'm going to be doing that because it's a way for the audience to feel connected to me and connected to the community we've built. That's more of like an audience thing. And then there'll be something that's more like SEO friendly, that's maybe bringing in audience that doesn't know me, that may find me through search. Like, what did I do recently? Like a grilled peach salad. Like,
Yes.
had a lot of search volume in the summer and it did really well for my channel because 60% of the traffic was coming in from search. So it's a portfolio that you balance. Yeah.
That's brilliant. I'm lucky I can come back to this, and so can anyone else who works with any sort of digital channels because I'm in that space too. This podcast is only 6 months old right now.
Oh, wow.
You
Go
know,
ahead. So that,
oh, thanks. But you feel like, why aren't things going faster? And why aren't I growing quicker? And we're in this world where the noise is just so loud online right now. So I'm doing that balance of, okay, this feels true to the brand and this feels true to my guests
yeah.
and the amazing stories, but I'm also looking up keyword research of like not
Yeah.
stuffing and making it feel like a computer wrote it, but how are people even going to find me if it's
Right.
not built for them to find what they are already searching for? So it's tough.
It is tough, but I will say with every upload, do you call it that in the podcast?
Yeah.
Your,
Yeah.
every time you do something, it has to reflect who you are because, and I have found it's so much more important to like resonate with that one person, that core audience, because that person will then share it. And I think word of mouth is like the best marketing there is. And sure, there's always going to be search and there's always going to be people who will find you from the top of the funnel,
Yes.
but they're probably not the most engaged audience. So I think it's better. And this is why people will say to me, like, oh, you've got this big audience, or oh, you just did a cookbook, but that took 10 years. It took 10 years because there could have been easier ways for me to grow. Like I could have been doing cake pops 10 ways, but that wasn't what I wanted to do. Like that wasn't who I was. So I grew slower, but I love being able to look back at it now and be really proud of everything that I've done because I just, with every upload, I was like, is this me? Is this what I want to do? And I can easily say yes to each thing. So I think there's something to be said about slow and steady wins the race as opposed to like quick and hockey pick growth potential, which I don't know, has mixed results, I think.
For sure. And unless someone is putting, if you thought of that in startup land, like that hockey stick, yeah, investors want to see that, but they want to see that with as little money spent as possible. But especially for like a consumer brand, you have to spend money or someone else's money.
Right.
So I appreciate you saying that. I think that gives me hope on these mornings because I've loved every single conversation on here. And so I'm just hoping there are folks out there in the void who are saying, that was really fun too. I learned something, or that made me feel inspired too, that I could try
There
something
is.
myself.
Yeah, it's 100%. They are out there. And I think you have to really love it because it's too much work otherwise. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of work. And I found like I was in maybe year 4 or 5 and it's such a slog. But I kept thinking, it was really like my zone of like bliss on the weekends. Like when I was like done with the 9 to 5 job, it was something that I love that I would have done for free. And I think you have to love it because it gets you through the times of where it's like really hard work and you don't see any traction sometimes. And I think I probably didn't really even see the traction I wanted to see until like year 8.
Wow.
And now even like, I think now the blog is finally starting to pick up, but like that took many, many years of just showing up. Yeah.
Yes, having your own traction, having that sense of trust as well, especially
Right.
when this might be good for the next question of, okay, so we are fully in the creator economy now. I mean, how many articles do you even see for folks who have full-time jobs with corporations of here's how you make an extra $1,000 a month? Essentially, here's what we do when the world is a dumpster fire. Here's how you just somehow make more money. What do you think are the misconceptions in terms of becoming a creator or a media brand in any space? What do you think are the misconceptions or even tips that you have for folks if they're ready to get sponsorships, advertising partners, affiliate partnerships, or essentially, what are the different revenue streams that you then started to lean into? And really, what was that process like?
Yeah. Well, there's so many different ways to make money through this creator economy. And I think everybody starts with just advertising because it's easy. You put some content up on YouTube, there's a little pre-roll that comes in front of it, and you make money from that. But that is such a scale game because it's not a lot of money. It's a lot of money when you get a lot of views.
Yeah.
But getting a lot of views takes a long time. So again, it's this idea of this sort of like diverse portfolio. I think you need to play the scale game because that's the top of the funnel and that's where the most people are going to find you. But then bringing people down the funnel to your most, say, lucrative opportunities. So like for me, that would be like Substack, paid subscriber Substack, because the percentage that they take is 10%, unlike YouTube that's taking 45%. So it's a lot less. And the crazy thing is, you could probably make as much on Substack if you had a pretty engaged paid following as you could with like hundreds of thousands of subscribers on YouTube. But you need both, like
Yes.
both. Yeah. And then I think for food creators, a blog, even though people are like, oh, the death knell is coming and AI and all of this, people are still using search. Like AI cannot supply everybody with every need. Like I actually find it kind of helpful. Like I sort of like those little summaries at the top, but I use it as like a starting point. I don't stop there and then I dig down to see what I want to click on. But I don't know. If I was starting now, I would go big on one platform, get your sea legs because there's so many platforms now. I think you can get like platform fatigue. Like you start something and you're like, oh, I got to be on Instagram and then I got to be on Facebook and I got to do the Substack thing and TikTok and I can't forget my Instagram reel. And like you can very easily burn out with all of that. I think when I started, there was really only YouTube and Pinterest was sort of starting and
Yes.
Instagram. But I didn't really go down that road right away. I just started like very focused on YouTube. And then I sort of became known as this YouTube creator, which I think is great I got a lot of opportunities because of it. And I think that that's good to start somewhere and get really good at it before you branch out with other things.
Definitely. And so that does bring us to why you and I connected in the first place.
Yeah.
When did you decide it was time to do your own book? I mean, just to show folks, Gorgeous Entertaining 101 came out at the beginning of summer 2025. I mean, this is recipes, but you have so many amazing entertaining tips in here as well.
Fun.
When was that moment that you were like, I have to compile everything that I've learned and that I've been talking about with folks over the years and put it into something that they're going to want in their home and something they're going to want to gift too?
Yeah. Well, I really resisted it for a long time, the book, because I was like, I have two reasons. One, I was like, why do I need a book? I have the YouTube channel, I have my blog, and I have all these other things. And I knew how much work putting a book together would be. And I'm like, I can barely stay above water doing like a weekly video on YouTube, shooting it, editing it, recipe testing. Like, how am I then going to layer on 101 recipes? Like, that just always seemed really daunting. But then I met Sally and we chatted for a long time. And she's like, I really think you have a book. You just need to figure out what you want it to be. And then I came up with this whole proposal. It was like a 75-page thing about I wanted to do like menus and I was going to do this thing. And she's like, yeah. She's like, that's good. I don't know. And then the pandemic hit and both of us just sort of shelved it. And I was like, I don't know. I'll get back to you on that. But then years later, I was at this cocktail party and somebody made a shrimp cocktail that was like the saddest shrimp cocktail.
Oh.
no flavor. And the shrimp just looked horrible. The sauce, I think, probably came out of a jar.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is really an easy recipe to make taste really great. Like, this is just something that everybody should know how to make. And then it just dawned on me, I'm like, if I'm going to write a book, that's what I want it to be. I want it to be, what are the 101 recipes that I think every host should know how to make? And I called up Sally. I'm like, Sally, I got the idea. This is what I want to do. She's like, I love that. Okay.
Let's do it.
So, yeah, which was really fun.
And as she and I talked about, despite everything publishing has gone through and continues to go through, like let's talk the last 15 years where suddenly bookstores were closing, but now bookstores are coming back. And the one thing, cookbooks and say home cook and entertaining books, they have stayed strong. And I think it is because of how much aesthetics has also come into play. You know, it's essentially taking what you think is Instagrammable and it becomes true in your hands at all times. Let's talk a little bit about how yours is different. So we've mentioned other icons like Ina and Martha and Donna. How did you say, I'm going to stand out? I'm going to be Beth and have the Beth method to it. My favorite section is probably right at the beginning of the, well, that's awkward, because that does happen where you're like, oh, great. I tried really, really hard on this, but yet something still comes out every time.
Right. No, for sure. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Ina and Martha and Donna and all those women. They were complete muses to me as I came up in my own entertaining journey. But for me, they were always very aspirational. Like it was always like, wow, like it was kind of like beyond my reach. And when I thought about what I wanted the tone of the cookbook to be, and because it's, again, you're on the shelf with those other authors. And I just kept thinking like, I cannot compete with what they're doing because what they're doing is at such a high level. I just wanted to be me. And so I really looked back to what I had been doing on my YouTube channel for 10 years. And what people really loved about that was I think it wasn't out of reach. It was really relatable. And I think it was relatable because I didn't go to culinary school. Like I didn't have a foodie background. I was a home cook who was cooking for my family and my husband and friends for 20 years. And there's a lot of humor to that too, because it doesn't always go as planned. And I think that's where that section sort of comes from. And I wanted to make sure that it was aspirational, but not in a way that felt too exclusive or too elusive, that people couldn't actually execute it for themselves.
Yes. I like that. That sums up your brand very well. I'd like to say it's accessible, but elevated.
Exactly.
It takes the everyday and makes it just a little bit special instead of, again, Martha is like incredibly aspirational. But if you watch, you know, that documentary, she did like, she recognizes like, I am an extreme perfectionist. That is everything in my life. It is good, but it's also bad in some ways. And I love Ina because the way she speaks is very, I think, relatable. But again, her lifestyle is something that
I'm like,
like,
we're just
wow.
fun in the Hamptons. And like, but I think we need content like that because we need to dream. We need to have things just beyond our reach because it's entertaining and it's fun. And certainly it's informational. But I think where I really wanted to be with this book and just with my brand in general is like practical. Like, okay, how are you actually going to do this? So every recipe has a make ahead game plan showing like what are the 2 or 3 steps that you can do the day before or 2 days before, and what recipe does this pair well. That's also in the book. So if you want to make, you know, the beef tenderloin for Christmas, great. What are you going to start with and what are you going to finish with that's not going to put you in the kitchen all day long? So each recipe then has those suggestions. And I think at the end of the day, I hope people come away from this book of like, oh, not only are there 101 like delicious recipes, but it's a really fantastic roadmap that people can entertain their friends and family without losing their minds in the process, because a lot of it can be really stressful for people because of the organization and because of the, like, you're cooking for an audience and people are in your kitchen and like, you don't want to lose your cool. So there's a little humor in, I think, the book too.
Yes. And I always have had this thing in the past that I've tried to get better at with some make ahead things. I can't wait to continue to use your tips to be better at this. I've always just been like, oh, the host never eats. The host never sits down. I'm always checking in like, are you happy? Did you eat? Did that taste good? Do you need more? You know, instead of, okay, can there be something that I'm just popping in the oven to warm up or something right before they're coming in, or it's
Yeah.
sitting there on low so that I can pull it out and say, okay, we're all ready to go here now.
Yes.
And that we actually all get to enjoy it together instead of me feeling like the Virgo maniac that I naturally am.
I know. No, and I'm the same way. I'm a Capricorn and we are like overachievers to the nth degree. But I think I learned maybe 10 years into this that like the whole secret of entertaining really is to make people feel comfortable. And nobody is comfortable watching a host spin out of control. Like that is just, that does not make anybody feel at ease. And so I think a lot of the recipes are things that you can pop in the oven or you take out of the fridge. You know, maybe there's one thing that you're actively cooking, but not five things that you're actively cooking. So yeah, I think that's just such a big part of it. And it's sort of you have to learn the hard way. Like you kind of can't tell people that until they've experienced it so
Yeah.
much for themselves that they're like, okay, yeah, I need another way.
Yes. It's time to sit down. It's time to also enjoy your cocktail with everyone.
Exactly.
So, talk to us about the process of making the book and then what it's been like to promote it and tour, how that's been different for you. So, what were your favorite parts about putting it all together? What were your biggest challenges? And what's it been like to say, okay, Beth's on the road?
I know. Yeah. I mean, I think my favorite part of the book obviously was the testing, just coming up with what the recipes should be and why they got included. With all the recipes in the world, to have to narrow it down to just 101 that I was going to put my name on that said, like, these are the 101 that you really need to know how to make. I had to really think through that because while I love a great omelet bar or I'm trying to think what else, a souffle, I don't think that those are practical for entertaining for large groups. I just, they're great. So I really wanted to make sure that they were things that made sense for entertaining and that also needed to be in people's repertoire. So that was fun to think through, and the testing and the cooking and the eating and all of that. I love the writing. I didn't think that I would love that as much because so much of my background has been video and has been imagery and has been more that side of things, not necessarily putting pen to paper. But I really did love that part of it. I think that was fun. I think that's actually what got me onto Substack because I realized like, wow, this is a whole other side of me that I really like. And there's this whole platform that like focuses on that. So why not build out an audience there? So that was fun. I think the hardest part after you go through all of the recipe development and then they get tested by a third party and there's lots of notes that come back and then you test a few of them again and everything's put to bed to then have your photo shoot where you have to make them all again. Yeah. I've sort of like gone through each recipe 7 or 8 times. That was hard. That was exhausting. That was 2 weeks of just mayhem. And at the same time, we were packing up our house to move to France. So I would probably not combine those two things because it just about broke me. But I don't know. Sometimes I feel like you have to do 2 hard things at the same time because you just want to take advantage of the momentum. Yeah.
I totally get that. Someone who
The
likes
house
to
was
be
already a mess. So it was like, why not just start throwing things in boxes?
holy cow. And the food styling that goes behind everything. And
Oh, yeah.
again, you've been on camera for so long, but I'm like, okay, the podcast has to be on video because that's what it is these days. But I still feel like, how do I look? How does everything look behind me? So I imagine you being like, oh my goodness, I'm now a model.
I know. So that was a
Um,
little nerve-wracking.
Well, you look beautiful and everything looks beautiful in it.
Thank
This is just a funny question for you. Is the shirt on the cover, is that Suzanne?
Oh, it is. They did all the clothing for the book.
Cezanne and Claire B are the perfect like Francophile meets US like audience here. So that's me just bringing that in. So what's it been like then? Okay, so I know that you and Sally had started talking and then there was a pause. So let's not include that. From say go time, this is going to happen to
Yeah.
launch date. How long did that take?
Oh, 2 years
Yeah.
at least. Yeah. Which is great because you kind of need that time. Like it was almost not enough time, but like you don't want to wait too long because then you start to have other ideas about things. You don't want to go back and change it all. But yeah, I mean, it's a very long process, which I think was good because it helped me keep everything else going.
Yes.
So like I had to continue uploading. I had to continue creating content. I couldn't just put everything on pause and nosedive into this book project. So that was a good part. But yeah, it was so much fun when I finally unwrapped the book and there it was in my hand.
Oh my goodness. It must have felt incredible. And how has it been like to tour the last few months? Has that been
Yeah.
comfortable for you? Has that been fun?
Well, it was super fun. Had to self-fund it. I think a lot of times people think, oh, the publisher sends you on this book tour. Maybe back in the day, that's
Yeah.
how it worked. But now, unless you have a ginormous audience, I don't know that publishers are rolling out the cash for that. So I really wanted to do it because I had never done anything like that before. And I felt like I really wanted to meet my audience because they had supported me for so many years and they were
Mm.
so excited about this book that I just thought I can't not do a book tour. So I scrounged it all together and I did a 7-city book tour. And it was probably one of the more gratifying things I've ever done, to be honest. I polled my audience, where should I go? And everybody voted. And so where I ended up going were like the top winners on the East Coast, the West Coast, Midwest, South. And it just was amazing. And I filmed the whole thing for YouTube too. It
So
was fun to
cool.
have a little scrapbook of that. But yeah, it was really awesome.
Yes. And like 10 years of people that you're like, we took the screen away from each other and we're finally meeting in person.
I know.
I feel like that's what we just all need more of in the world. Like we're all just, we can go on about how difficult things are, especially for folks in food, bev, hospitality, agriculture, but
Yeah.
just the connection of it's so easy to realize that there are a lot of people that love the same things and we just all want to geek out on it and feel
It,
happy. So I'm glad you did that.
yeah. I think when you're online, you put all of this content into the void and you never know what it means to people until you show up and they come and tell you in person what it actually means. And there were a couple of people that like I still get choked up on and think about it that came, drove 6 hours to come meet me, showed up with like tears in their eyes saying, like, you have no idea, you got me through this rough patch. And I used to cook for my mom who was ill, and your meals made her last days. Like, it's just some of the stories that come out are just really, you really get taken aback and you just think, wow, okay, this is why I'm doing this, because it does matter to people. And I think it was sort of what I needed after going through so much work with the book,
Yes.
the move to France. I was just exhausted and I needed to get that shot in the arm again of like, oh, this is why I'm doing this. So I think it was as much for me as it was for them.
Yes. And I hope you're finding some time to take a vacation or a break for yourself soon.
Yeah. We did this summer. We had some great vacations.
Good. And again, you're in Europe, like traveling to other countries is like going to other states. So it's so fun.
Exactly. No, it's been fun.
Oh, good. Well, by the time folks are listening to this, holidays are around the corner. And if you're in consumer brands or food, we're already thinking about holidays in July.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how we can use your fabulous tips and recipes from the book and from your channels to get ready here. What are some of your favorite sections that people should be looking at for, say, Thanksgiving and the other holidays that then come around the corner?
Yes. So I think one of my favorite sections is the area where I talk about how to create a collection for entertainment. Because I think a lot of people, I think it's called, entertaining essentials. Here it is. I think a lot of people, they plan these big events and then at the last minute, they're like, oh, I don't have enough wine glasses, or I don't have enough platters, or I don't have enough serving things. And then they run around and go to whatever big box store there is and buy everything. And then everything sort of looks like it popped out of a mail order catalog. Like, and I think the best pieces for entertaining feel really acquired and things that feel like they've been collected. They don't need to be priceless antiques. You can get most of it at a thrift store or even like yard sales. But I think knowing the pieces to concentrate on, for me, I have 6 categories: wood, pottery, silver. I take people through in the book, like what those categories are, so that when everything comes together, it feels like it's all part of the same planet and it just feels homier. It gives your parties more of a soul. So I think that is a really good place to start if you're going to host the holidays. It's to start thinking about your collections now. And do you have enough pieces to host 15 people for Thanksgiving?
I love that so much. And one, you're in France, you have access to like the most gorgeous antique stores and markets now for this. But in the US, go to any thrift store or talk to your family members. I'm looking at my bar cart out of the corner of my eye and I'm like, okay, that cake plate came from randomly the home that my parents moved into, like just the past owners, like left some glassware and they're like, oh, if you want it. And then I'm like, oh, and then ice buckets from my grandparents or something like. But then I'm like, oh, and my punch bowl's from Target. So
Yeah.
there are ways to mix that based on your style, which I love. And There are some things that might work well for some people. Like they might love full linens and table runners. And you might say, let's just have some cute napkins or something.
Yeah. It really is another way to get creative and to show your style, but also make people feel a little bit transported. Like, I think that that's always been sort of the fun part about entertaining is you are setting a stage, you are letting people into your world, and whatever that world looks like is up to you. And I think that's part of the fun is just getting the environment set before you start thinking about the food.
100%. I love how events, my favorite, being someone who, there's no doubt I was in lifestyle journalism at one point because I'm like, I love combining the fact that going to dinner or hosting a dinner or any event, it's like you're combining the food, but then there's the fashion. What outfit are you wearing?
Right.
And then what outfit is your home wearing? What's the interior design going behind it?
Because the home is a character in it too.
Yes.
You can't forget about the home.
That's very true. And dinner parties, I feel like, are only becoming more popular. So people are saying this essentially post COVID as well. Okay, how could people get together that was safe? Gen Z and younger are doing a little bit more of this to save money and just feel like they're connecting a little bit more here. We're seeing tablescaping, home cafe setups, very elaborate spreads on social media. What are some of your favorite trends that you've been seeing online?
Yeah. Well, I always just love the grazing boards. I think some of them are so amazing and so over the top. Like I can't stop staring at them, but I find that they are also a great way to feed a big group of people. We just had 50 people for a birthday party for my husband, and I did huge grazing boards down the table. And it just was a great way for people to like feed themselves during a cocktail hour that's sort of a set it and forget it. And you can just add all kinds of things. You just get it all at the grocery store. And I think it's all how you display it to make it look really inviting and pretty. And it becomes its own centerpiece. You can't think too much about flowers and things when you have like fabulous grazing boards running down the table. So I really love that. Yeah.
It's like art. The food is the art.
Yeah, the food is the art. And I also really love the trend in the last few years of just unfussy flower arrangements that may have like branches and maybe there's fruit in it and or maybe a few vegetables. Like there's something really soulful too about flowers that look like they were just picked from a yard and maybe they're in mismatched vases and they're different heights. And again, it just feels a little bit more relaxed and more soulful than something that's too stiff and fussy.
Yes, yeah. Like you're going to the Michelin starred restaurant
Right.
mostly for like you imagine like very much precise. Everything's matching. But at home, like you said, it takes money or it takes buying a whole collection of one thing. And sometimes matchy is not as fun.
No, it's not.
Oh, but this has been so great. I'm sad that we're in our last few questions here. It's flown. A few questions before we get to the world's best and hardest question. So, what would you say you're most proud of? I know this is tough to choose from with everything you've done. And how do you want to continue to grow? What do you think is next for the journey here?
I'm most proud of, it's going to sound sappy, but it really was my goal all along, was the ability to pick up my kids from school. That was always the sort of like promised land. Like if I can quit my day job and do this side hustle full time, that means I can pick my kids up from school every day. And I never take that for granted. Even now, I'm so grateful to be here when they get home. If I was working the big 9 to 5 job, I would come home and they'd be like looking at me for dinner and my husband's like feeding them fish sticks and cereal. And I just kept thinking like there has to be a better way. And being able to cook for them every night, pick them up, like that is hands down the thing I'm most proud of. As far as what's next, I really want to spend more time on Substack. I think it's such a fun platform. And I right now have a paid community that's a monthly post all about our life in France, what it's like adjusting to a new culture, a new language, and everything in between. And I'd love to add to that more, make it more than once a month, have video component to that too. So spending time leading into that and really figuring out what that looks like, I think is a goal for the coming year.
Oh, I love that. I just joined Substack and starting to put the episodes on there. So I'll be following along and getting inspiration on how to keep leaning in there because Substack is the friendliest platform for anyone who loves writing and media in general. We all loved X. We all love Twitter. Blue Sky's still there, but this is the space where, it's just blown up. It's been wonderful.
And it's so easy to use.
Yes.
Like, I think that's the other thing. People are like, I can't take one more platform. But it's so easy to adopt it because it's so easy to use. So I think that's the other fun part about it.
Definitely. What would you say? It's hard to choose one, but what's one piece of advice you'd like to give someone who's looking to be an entrepreneur themselves, whether it's in the culinary space, whether it's in media or entertaining or
Yeah.
anything else?
I think to not fall back on this idea of like, ah, the space is so saturated. Do we really need one more food creator? Do we really need one more insert, whatever it is? Yes, we do, because we don't have your unique voice, your unique point of view. And I think that's the really fun thing about this entrepreneurial digital creator economy is that it is definitely focused on somebody's unique personality. And there isn't another you out there. So, no, it's not saturated because there's not like 10,000 of you. So, don't let that get in the way of getting started. And, if you don't try, you've already failed. So, you might as well give it a shot.
I love that. And it's very true to your story, too, is that
Mhm.
you built your freedom. You built your brand off of being yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And other people can do that too. It's not unique to me in any way.
And well, Beth, it's time. As a reminder to folks, this is called the perfect bite, as it's a perfect bite of the value chain of food and bev, all the folks who contribute to it, but it's also because we all have our own perfect bites. So, something that's unique to our taste buds, our memories, and the food that we personally love. So, Beth, what is your perfect bite?
My perfect bite is a little pizza shop in Florence, Italy that makes the most incredible pizzas. And my daughter goes to school in Florence. And so I'm there quite often, which is great, which is another reason why we wanted to move to France because she's only 2 hours away now. And we had tried like every pizza place that's on TikTok, that's on Instagram. We tried them all until I met somebody on a flight. And she said to me, we just got chatting in the like customs line. And she said, oh, if you ever want to have lunch, here's my number. Her parents are Italian. She goes to Florence quite frequently. So we get together and she's like, I'm going to take you to my favorite pizza place. And so she took me down this little back alley and we went across by the leather market and we end up at this little nothing restaurant. Like it looks like a little hole in the wall. I had the best piece of pizza I've ever had in my entire life. It was the most delicious thing. And she showed me how to eat it. You take your little like triangle, you take the tip, you fold it in, and then
Oh,
fold the pizza so all the fillings don't fall out, which I thought that was really genius.
oh,
Her parents are from Naples, so they were used to eating pizza on the run. And it has that like chewy dough, chewy crust. I love a chewy pizza. The most incredible tomato sauce that's fresh, but also like a little bit of sweet. You can tell it was made with fresh tomatoes. The mozzarella, like the whole package was this pizza place. And that will always be my most favorite bite. I love that pizza place.
holy cow. Do you know the name?
I can find out for you and I can email it to you. You can
Please.
put it in no notes. Yeah.
Please, I am going. That's,
Find out about this place.
oh my God, it's 10 a.m. in Ohio, and I'm like, I need to go find like the most authentic pizza right now.
Oh my God.
I get it can make you smile so much. It reminds me of that scene in Eat, Pray, Love when Julia Roberts says, I'm in a relationship with my pizza.
Well, that's the
Real.
pizza place. So they have one in Naples. That's the one I
Oh,
think that's in the movie, and they have one in Florence. It's that one, and it's on their website and everything. It's
meant to
super
be.
great.
Okay.
That
Well, there
is
you
it.
go. There you go. It's the Julia Roberts pizza is your favorite bite. Truly meant to be. Oh my goodness. Oh, wow, Beth. Thank you again for sharing your story, all of your advice, and Entertaining 101. I can't wait for folks to pick this up. I can't wait for this to be part of my gifting repertoire. Can you let folks know where to find you? So, your YouTube, the different social accounts, any sites, and any venues or, say, upcoming events that you'll be at.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I did all of my cookbook tour, so that's over with. So I'm going to be in France for a little bit now, but people can find me on entertainingwithbeth.com. It's the same handle on YouTube, entertainingwithbeth.com, Instagram, all the social things, same on Substack.
Excellent. And where can they buy the book?
Yes, anywhere books are sold or on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and most recently on Anthropology. So that was a really exciting little win for me. They're going to be carrying my book.
Oh my God,
So
such a win. I mean, this is an anthro book, 100%. Yeah.
that's what I need to say. Yeah.
Oh,
One store I really wanted to be in. And my publisher was like, well, don't hold to that because they're very selective. So when it came through that they're like, oh, they're going to be carrying your book, I was just like so excited. Yeah.
ooh, that's a dream come true. Amazing. Well, Beth, thank you again so much. And everyone, thank you for listening in. This was Beth Le Manach's Perfect Bite. Thanks for tuning in to The Perfect Bite today. You can listen to future episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. Thanks in advance for subscribing, rating, and reviewing. You can follow The Perfect Bite on social media @PerfectBitePod. Now go get something good to eat.